Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Ron Swanson's List of Sweatiness. This is the list of Season 7, the final season of Parks and Recreation. As usual, I am your friendly neighborhood soda by Sweetens, and this week I am joined by Benny Karate.
I wouldn't have done that, man. I didn't want to mess up my throat.
I have no problem making myself look like a fool. So we did it. We are finally at the end of Parks and Rec, which is a sad journey because it is one of the best shows ever made. But this seventh season, while we said last week that season 6 ended perfectly for a series finale, season 7 really takes the cake where it ties up everybody in the future, and we will definitely be getting into that. What were your thoughts on this season?
It was a great final season. I look at it more of an extra season because, like we said last week, it ended perfectly and you could have ended it right there. But they gave us one more extra special season, and it was great.
It feels like an epilogue to a story.
Yes, it's kind of like, what would I compare it to?
Well,
it's kind of like the Far From Home.
Actually, I would compare it to the epilogue in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Takes place years later, and you get to see where everybody's ended up.
Right.
Now, where do you think this ranks on the best series final seasons of all time? I'm putting it up at the top 3.
Let me think about it for a second.
Like, I'd put it above The Office for sure. I'd put it above How I Met Your Mother. It's in the conversation with Friends, this final season.
I love Friends' final season. I would not put that in the top episode, in my opinion. I would put it up with Smallville, Lost, and I know it's controversial. Bring on the hate. The final season of Game of Thrones.
You missed it. I just said jokingly Game of Thrones. I agree. It's a good season. I personally think it's great, but it's a good final season.
Yeah, I'm really thinking about it. Maybe more so in season 7 of Game of Thrones. There's some excellent moments.
Of course.
Like Littlefinger's death. That was an excellent, incredible scene.
No, I 100% agree. That's a show maybe down the line in like 20 years we should revisit when the fervors died down. Because truthfully, that actually wouldn't be a bad show to review.
What would be, right now, riskier to review? Game of Thrones as a whole, or Star Wars 7 through 9?
I think there's a lot of cross-pollination there, so I think they're both equally as bad.
I think you might. So should we get started here?
Yeah, let's stop talking about toxic fandoms and start talking about the great citizens of Pawnee. So Ben,
one of the members is a member of one of our fandoms.
That is true. All right, so for the final time on this series, Ben, what is your number 5?
The Johnny Karate Hero Awesome Explosion Show.
Not on my list. Now it's a fun episode, but it's those type of episodes aren't my favorite.
I know, but it's so fun and it's a little bit meta, and they did have fun with it.
Of course, like I said, it's a great episode. It's just for me, they don't.
Yeah, I know, and that's what. Listen, this whole season is great. So I had to pick and choose which I enjoyed more, and I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I did love it because you actually get to witness what a Sonic Karate episode is like. And and get Chris Pratt anything he wanted to do, they let him do. And
you get a great cameo. You get to see what everybody does for the show. Probably the best one is Ron, as expected, trying to swat away the imaginary sign. Oh God! So they air a disclaimer, right?
really,
Well, yeah, you didn't catch that. They aired a disclaimer in the middle of the episode because when the tarantula got loose. So on the wiki, they actually have the disclaimer. Are you ready?
yes,
Okay. This document is binding in perpetuity. It ensures that Channel 46, the company, and its parent company, Sweetums Corp., as well as Sweetum Corp's parent company, Academy, cannot be held legally responsible for any views or actions made by/on Johnny Karate's Super Awesome Musical Explosion Show, aka the show. The actions of or opinions expressed by Johnny Karate, aka Burt Macklin, aka Jonathan Karate, aka Andy Dwyer, the host, or his wife, Miss Karate, aka Janet Snakehole, aka Judy Hitler, aka April Ludgate Dwyer, the producer, do not necessarily represent those of the company. This statement also applies to any and all alter egos or characters generated now or in the future by either the host or the producer, as well as their cast members, current or future, and their dog champion, aka Dog World Champion, aka the three-legged wonder dog, aka Tripod Jones, the dog. This further acknowledges that the company has on numerous occasions under the threat of termination and or loss of privileges relating to the host show instructed the host and the producer not to engage in any of the following activities: attempting to ingest or encouraging others to ingest non-edible products, including but not limited to glue, wood, staples, staplers, toys, wool socks, cotton socks, polyester socks, cotton/polyester blend socks, scientific equipment in any form of U.S. currency, including but not limited to pennies, nickels, quarters, Susan B. Anthony dollars, Sacagawea dollars, or paper bills. Detonation of any sort of explosive device or non-explosive device that is rendered explosive by the taping or gluing of said device to an explosive device. Covering the studio property or any other property in any substance, including but not limited to glitter, tar, glittery tar, jam, gel, jelly, ice, slush, slime, sludge, slurry, ooze, gunk, glop, goop, foam, froth, muck, or ice cream. Using the company's telephone for any prank call segments to any citizens, including but not limited to current or former government officials, former classmates, former coworkers, local restaurants, Lawrence, Greg Bacchitis, or any members of the 2001 to 2017 New England Patriots. Claiming to be an agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation and or the Central Intelligence Agency and or the Coast Guard and or the United States Treasury Department and or Special Ops and or Special Ox, spelled incorrectly, in order to gain access to government or law enforcement buildings. Pressing on the host's own eyes with host's own thumbs in order to see cool stuff floating around in there. Attempting to break any national or international record for any kind of competitive eating, including but not limited to pies, hot dogs, cherries, bananas, sunflower seeds, butternut squash, clam chowder, milk, pinto beans, burritos, sweet and sour chicken, paunch burger dinner for breakfast burger combos, paunch burger breakfast for dinner burger combos, paunch burger breakfast for dinner pancake combos, paunch burger lunch for dinner sandwich combos, or paunch burger everything for dinner burrito, pancake, taco, teriyaki, chicken, waffle, nacho, penne, abriata, steak combo supreme. Specific note on liability of loose animal in the studio segment. By reading this document, you, the viewer, or your legal guardian, forego the right to seek any legal action regarding any possible contact with a loose or lost animal in the segment. Viewers are encouraged not to seek out or interact with the loose animal, and all claims to the contrary made by the host and producer are false. No animals were harmed in the making of the segment. If they were, it was not the intention of the show, host, company, or producer, nor can those parties be held responsible for the actions of the aforementioned animals. Once the viewer has entered Studio 46, the company is not liable for the actions, noises, behaviors, or attacks of any loose animal, including but not limited to barn owl, red claw scorpion, Mexican plateau horn lizard, Tasmanian pygmy possum, green tree python, bull weevil, boa constrictor, hagfish, Ecuadorian poodoo, fire-throated anteater, albino wolverine, sucker-footed bat, Egyptian tortoise, Lithuanian garbage cat, Hawaiian gharial, Brazilian thunder panda, Special edition 2 note on liability of loose animal in the studio segment. The conditions and limits on liability apply to all segments of April's Animal Corner, regardless of whether the segment eventually leads to aforementioned segment, loose animal in the studio. On such occasions when April's Animal Corner proceeds as planned and the animal in question remains safely in the cage or container in which it was transported, the company, hey, it's me, Andy. I had a dumb meeting with our dumb lawyer who was yelling at me for something I didn't even know what it was. He's so funny when he yells, he looks like Beaker from the Muppets. I'm in his office right now. He's on a phone call. So I opened this document and clicked in the middle of this paragraph and started typing, haha, he's so dumb. He'll probably never even see this. I can type whatever I want. Colts rule, Johnny Karate forever, Reggie Wayne forever, Greg Pakaitis sucks. Okay, he's coming back. I love you, April. Bye. Retains the right to apply these limited liability conditions to the segment, as well as any other segments involving animals now or in the future. Wow.
Hold on. When you said they showed on the disclaimer, I thought you meant NBC showed one about
this is the
content
disclaimer that appears in the middle of the episode.
Oh. Wow.
Right? My favorite part's when Andy butts in at the very end. And it's all one run-on sentence, which is why I barely breathed.
Good job, man.
Well, I'm an actor. I've read scripts. Actor.
Viewer.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay, so my number 5 is Donna and Joe.
That's my number 4.
Okay, then. So Donna and Joe. All right, it's days. Okay, this one's not that bad. It's the day before Donna and Joe's wedding, and Craig is on high alert. Donna asks her maid of honor, April, to make sure the Meagles behave themselves at her wedding. Her family loves drama, but they also give good presents. Leslie and Ben prepare for the rehearsal dinner and thank their nanny, Roz, played by the great Rachel Dratch, for her effort at the impossible task of watching the triplets. Jennifer Barkley arrives, and Leslie assumes she's going to ask her to run for an office, but instead she asks Ben to run for Congress. The rehearsal party is held at Tom's Bistro. Leslie wants Ben to run for Congress, but she tells him she's neutral. She suggests he pretend as if he were running to see how it feels. After falling intoxicated, the pair party the night away. Meanwhile, Ron accidentally tells Lucy that Tom could imagine marrying her, which upsets Tom. What the hell was that? It sounded like you were trying to choke a dog. Like, Ron tries to backtrack, but only makes things worse by telling her Tom wants kids and to live on an island. In the kitchen, April and Andy have wrangled all the trouble-causing Meagles. Donna compliments April on how smooth the evening is going. The next morning, Leslie and Ben wake up hungover and discover Ben left drunk messages for Jennifer, accepting the offer to run for Congress. As a result, Jennifer releases a premature campaign video. They meet Jennifer at JJ's diner, where Jennifer suggests to not back out as it could destroy his career. At the wedding, Ron tells Tom and Lucy to bury the hatchet and be honest with each other about their relationship. The wedding ceremony proceeds without a hitch, with Leslie as the bridesmaid and April as maid of honor. Outside the church, the press confronts Ben about his decision to run for Congress. He is frustrated because he's currently trying to deal with an issue for the triplets, but he realizes he loves solving problems and his work as city manager speaks for itself, so he officially declares his run for Congress. At the wedding reception, everyone teases Terry for the name Gary on his name card, which leads to everyone calling him Gary, his real name, via another name change, which he was so happy about. Donna winks at him, and he realizes it was her doing. The whole group congratulates Ben on his decision to run for Congress, and he toasts Donna and John's future. Donna mentions to April that she misses some of the usual Meagle drama. As Craig prepares to serenade the happy couple, in reality serenading himself, April lets Donna's estranged brother, Lavandrius, into the wedding with a microwave they were fighting over decades ago. She smashes the microwave on the dance floor, to which Donna thanks April for the absent drama she was missing. Now, trivia question. Who played Lavandrius? He's actually Questlove, baby. I love me some Questlove.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Yeah. Okay, so this episode, it was a great way to wrap up Donna's storyline. You finally get to see her be with someone who really, really loves her, and you get to meet her extended family. April proves that she really is a good friend, and it's a good episode.
I love this episode, and a small arc that I love between Donna and Gary that
Yeah,
you see the conclusion of in this episode.
yeah.
She helps him with his whole name thing.
It's very it's an underplayed, subtle relationship.
It's
Because while she
kinda
does make fun of him,
akin.
she does legit care for him, which they all do. But it's just something with her, you actually see it.
It's kinda akin. They don't show it much in The Office, but there's an episode or two where Jim and Creed get along good, but they don't show it all that often.
I wouldn't. I'd actually compare it to something else from The Office myself personally. Think the
Okay.
final episode after the wedding, they're in the office. Jim and Pam walk in to tell Dwight that they're quitting, and he says, "No, you're fired," so they can get their severance package. That's what this reminds me of.
No, because Jim and Dwight, in my opinion, are more like Tom and Ben. I'm like, yeah, you see that relationship grow throughout the
Yeah,
show.
you do, but for the most part, everyone, including Jim, is out to get Dwight. Just like, I mean, yeah, to me, it reminded me of a similar situation where you finally see that yes, they actually do care for each other.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
it was
fair.
it was more in the gesture. That's what it
That's
reminded me of.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay, spoiler alert. They had a better final season, but to me, not the series office. The
I
series
agree.
finale for The Office is still a tad bit better than this
Funny
series
enough,
finale.
the first and only episode of The Office I ever watched live
Really?
because I heard Michael Scott was coming back. So I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. And at the time, it didn't get me until last year when I finally binged the show and loved it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so that was your number 4. So it's now my number 4 again. It is the penultimate episode of the series, Two Funerals.
That's how my honorable mentions.
Okay, so this is, like I said, it's the penultimate episode of the series. The episode opens with the news that Donna and Joe have closed on a house in Seattle. Leslie and Ben will be splitting their time between DC and Pawnee for Leslie's new job. Andy and April have found a place in DC as well, and Gary is retiring again. Then comes the news that the heretofore unseen Mayor Gunderson, played by the one and only choice for the role, Bill fucking Murray, has passed as well. What I love is that nobody that guy was an unannounced, uncredited cameo. Nobody knew.
Really?
Yeah, basically they called him. He showed up on set that day to do his scene and left. And no, like outside of people who were there, that word never got out.
You know what? You know what? I hate to say this. I mean, people our generation love Bill Murray. I don't know if he's as big with the newer generation.
I think when people start to learn about the magic of Bill Murray, they probably not as much as our generation, obviously, because we have Ghostbusters, Groundhog Day, Stripes, like all those movies, and the kids will have, our next generations will have them as well. But I don't know. I think, yeah, you're right. I think they'll love him, but it's definitely not the same as what we do.
And he is one of those actors that, yeah, you could make a surprise cameo. Because nobody, I hate to say it, nobody's really looking out for him these days.
True, but also he's just known to do that to just show up.
True.
Right? Okay.
True.
At the memorial, the characters process their grief in different ways. Ben Wyatt enlists April and Gary to help find an interim mayor. Leslie attempts to convince Tom Haverford to propose to Lucy. Ron Swanson, who, unaffected by the death of the mayor, collapses upon hearing his barber, Salvatore, has passed as well. Finally, Ethel Beavers reveals that she has been Mayor Gunderson's lover for 46 years since he was in an open marriage, and that she regrets not expressing her love for him sooner, which was gross. In Leslie and Tom's plot, they order a last-minute banner where Leslie reminds the banner store owner that she has spent over $100,000 at his store, which caused her credit card company to call and ask if she was mentally stable. The two then begin filming an action movie in Tom's store, complete with stunt doubles and John Ralphio as the villain. However, as soon as Lucy arrives in Pawnee, Tom throws out his old plan and proposes to Lucy at the Snake Hole Lounge, where they first met, using items from their first date, and she accepts. Ben, April, and Gary begin interviewing potential interim mayors, starting with Bobby Newport, who declines since he is too busy partaking in space tourism. After moving through several other notable Pawneans, including Joan Calamezzo, who declines due to her claimed youthful age, 27, Dr. Saperstein, who declines for lack of time due to his mogul status, and the douche, reverts to douche persona. April suggests Ben himself. However, after finally accepting the Icetown fiasco from his past, Ben decides to pass the mayoral position onto Gary, who is overjoyed. He even receives an amazing inauguration celebration, including a throne, red carpet, choir, Roman legions, hot air balloon, and fireworks, all strongly suggested to have been for Tom's original proposal idea. Which I just realized now. Son of a bitch. At Salvatore's funeral, Ron declares that the three most important people in a man's life are his barber, his butcher, and his lover, and places $8, the cost of a haircut, lovingly in Salvatore's coffin. It later emerges that Ron's sadness truly stems from his fear of change and the amount of change happening around him. With all his friends moving away, Salvatore was the one constant left in Ron's life. After some sage words from Ron Dunn, Donna gets the idea to take Ron to Typhoon. While Typhoon, who's her stylist, while Typhoon is much more talkative and flamboyant than Ron's former barber, Ron quite enjoys Typhoon's disdain for Europe and bicycles, and it becomes clear that he has found his new barber. It was nice to see all the shit that Gary went through, to see him finally achieve something.
And you know what? When they made him into a mayor, I knew he was going to, I knew he was going to keep this for however long they were going to do. He
died on his 100th birthday, surrounded by his wife and children who haven't aged a day.
Who the hell isn't Ben?
Okay, Ben's reaction to this is literally how, obviously it's like, I know why they gave him, like, the character Gary this, but I'm with Ben, like, it makes no fucking sense.
Like, the perfect life, the perfect children.
And apparently incredibly well hung. When I was reading into the show, I found out the producers did that, the writers did that for Gary because they were kind of, felt bad for constantly shitting on him. So they gave him a hot wife, really hot daughters, a tripod, and then they made him the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great episode. And I love the stuff about Tom's proposal. It is. Yeah, I liked it.
It's sweet, it's intimate, and it shows that Tom has grown up.
Yeah.
Because without any hesitation, he just ditches it all and does the right way.
In a lot of ways, I know you haven't seen the show. In a lot of ways, it reminds me of an episode of Frasier, where Frasier's brother was planning a proposal, and he just decided to keep it simple at the end.
Okay, so that was my number 4. What is your number 3?
What? Oh, Ron and Sammy.
That's my number 3 as well.
Take it away.
Oh, this is a great episode. If it wasn't for the other two, this might be up at number 1. The Pawnee City Council is voting on whether to rezone the Newport land for commercial use. If the consensus of the council is yes, then Grizzle will gain the rights to build a campus on the land. But if the consensus is no, then the National Park Service will acquire the land by default. To Leslie Knope's dismay, however, her old nemesis Jeremy Jam holds the deciding vote. She meets with Jam to ask him to vote no, but he informs her his vote will be heavily influenced by his new girlfriend, Tammy too. While she is repulsed by Tammy, Leslie sees this as an opportunity to persuade Tammy to have Jam vote no in order to continue her life goal of torturing Ron Swanson. Tammy likes the idea of that, but come the time for the council to hear both sides' arguments, Jam immediately declares his intention to sign with Grizzle. Tammy later admits to Leslie that she decided to side with Ron and Grizzle in an attempt to win Ron back. Leslie results to having to break up Jam and Tammy, but she can't do it alone as Jam is in Tammy's clutches. Tammy has effectively turned Jam into a clone of Ron. Leslie confronts Ron and asks for a temporary truce. Ron is initially against the idea as he is weary of the fact that Jam could switch his vote if he is detached from Tammy, but he agrees to comply and join forces with Leslie after seeing just how damaged Jam has become. The pair take Jam to Ron's cabin in the woods and put him through a number of Ron's Tammy deprogramming exercises to desensitize Jam from Tammy. Later that day, Jam confronts Tammy at the Pawnee Library and successfully breaks up with her, even resisting the urge to have sex with her after Tammy gets naked in front of the trio. Ugh. The next day, Jam informs both Leslie and Ron that he will be abstaining from the vote as he can no longer choose between the two following their efforts. His decision thus leaves the vote locked at 2-2. Despite a disappointing result, Leslie and Ron share a solemn moment with one another. Ron admits that he thought it was big of Leslie to not bend when Tammy promised her the vote at the library if she left Jam alone, while Leslie extends her gratitude to Ron for aiding her. The two then part ways as enemies once again, which we will be getting into. Meanwhile, Ben Wyatt and April Ludgate attend a Pawnee Walk of Fame inductee ceremony to honor Joan Calamezzo. Despite having quite literally lost her mind over many years of being in the spotlight, Joan delivers a speech which really hits home for April. Her career of being on TV is what she truly loves and always wanted to do, and says if you don't love what you do, then what's the point of doing it at all? Which I actually wholeheartedly agree with. April comes to the conclusion that her parks-related work over 8 years has truly never been her passion and questions her purpose in life. She confides in Ben, and he offers to help her find a career path that she can thrive in. After inspecting what it would be like to be a mortician, she is disappointed to find out that even working in a mortuary consists of doing paperwork. April admits to feeling lost, but Ben comforts her by explaining that looking at one horrifying job should not stop her in her quest to find her calling. Almost done. Elsewhere, Tom Haverford isn't content with being a big-time mogul bachelor. He discusses his problems over a round of drinks with Andy Dwyer. Andy proposes that Tom's future wife could be someone he already knows. After searching for possible matches, a message from Lucy comes through. An intoxicated Andy suggests he and Tom go to Chicago to meet up with Lucy, and upon arriving in the city, the pair immediately bump into her. After spending the day with her, Tom deduces that she could be the one, but he considers how it would work between them with Lucy living in a different city. He commits to asking her to move back to Pawnee under the guise of working for him as his company manager. She quickly agrees to the move, but Tom is taken back when he finds out Lucy already has a boyfriend. While it looks unlikely the two will get back together, Andy has high hopes for Tom and Lucy to fall in love.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
That storyline is cute. It's hands down the Ron and Tammy and Jamie and Leslie's story all the way in this episode.
Of course. I kind of know what they did with Jam. Making him a Ron clone. That was funny. And seeing how far Tammy would go to get her way with him.
Yeah. Well, here's a quote from Ron about his deprogramming kit. I made this Tammy deprogramming kit in case I ever fell victim to her again. First, this is a chastity belt that I made by hand. Might be a couple sizes too big for you, but you can just pat it. The first step is to cut out all sex. Oh, Ron. Or this one. It's a crotch blinder of my own design. In this scenario, she will be coming at you pantsless. Oh, dear God. Alrighty. What is your number 2?
Primary.
That's on my honorable mentions.
Then he becomes the center of attention when maybe the women's group don't want Leslie to make a pie. Wait. You want to take it away?
Yeah, but I might as well. Okay. Leslie's refusal to take part in the Pie-Mary, a pie baking contest, becomes a point of controversy. While she originally declines to participate due to its retrogressive nature, Mike Patterson's yellow journalism successfully convinced Leslie to reverse herself and participate. However, Upon being boycotted by the Indiana Organization of Women, Leslie decides to switch with Ben to refocus attention on his congressional campaign. Ben, of course, instantly fixates on the idea of redefining pie making by making a calzone while humming Highway to the Calzone Zone. He is then boycotted himself by a males' right group, the Mailmen. Because why the fuck not? April informs Ron that she's going to move to Washington with Andy to take on a new job. Ron tells her that she has to return him the key to his house. April realizes that she has changed the hiding place of the key and that she left a trail of clues, the first being 4 human teeth and a Twilight ticket stub. She and Andy tell Ron, but Ron is excited to solve this mystery. They first visit Donna, who informs them that she and April watched that movie together years ago when April removed her wisdom teeth. Donna also informs them that April also visited the shoeshine stand that day. The trio runs to the shoeshine stand only to find it was removed during the remodeling of City Hall. They visit the basement and they find Harold there, who tells them that a ghost took it. Ron realizes that the ghost is actually Councilman Milton, and they find him in his office polishing his shoes. They locate a note written by April to Andy, which ends with woof woof, which seems to be a dead end. Back at Ron's office, April feels guilty, but Ron reveals that he changes his locks every 16 days, so the keys that April has no longer work. April suddenly remembers where she hid the keys. She buried under a tree that reminded her of Ron. Ron highly approves of this hiding place because he too had buried some gold there years earlier. Or did he? Donna discovers Gary trying to fish something out from the drain and learns that Gary had dropped his wedding ring again. The two of them talk and reminisce about the old days. The next day, Donna shows up at Gary's house, telling him that she managed to get people to open up the drain and to remove all the things that Gary had dropped inside over the years. She also gives Gary some oranges to thank him for his time. I think their relationship is an underrated relationship because, again, it's so under the radar, you don't notice it right away.
Agreed. And I love there's a line April gives. And she thinks she lost the key forever and she hasn't tell Ron. She says, I lost the key in a government building. It's one's worst nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, God bless Ron Swanson.
Oh. God, now I want Swanson to meet Michael Scott.
Right? That would just be awesome.
It would be. And I want Ben to meet Dwight. I think that would be awesome too.
Who would Leslie meet?
Jan, but before Jan goes insane.
No. Jan, really? Yeah, okay.
No. Pam.
No. David, the head of the company. The boss guy that Michael goes to his house. That's who I want Leslie to meet.
Yep. Oh God, what's his character's name? Charles. The guy that David hires to go between
Idris Elba?
Idris Elba.
Oh, shit, what's his name? Robert California? Can you imagine him, James Spader's character, meeting Leslie?
I see him meeting Chris. Not Chris. Yeah, Chris.
That would be yeah, that'd be a good one.
Chris.
So I think I know what your number one is. So should we just do the honorable mentions now?
Well, you have to do your number one. You have to do your number one. What?
It's going to be your number one.
Oh, okay. Let's do the honorable mentions. You want me to go?
I'll start because I only had the two. 2017, the pilot, not the pilot, the first episode of the season, and Pie Mary.
Few ones. Same senses. 2017.
All right. So
I had one more, but you're about to talk about it. Oh, wait, no. No. Okay, never mind.
So my number two, which I'm assuming is your number one, is the final episode, One Last Ride.
Yeah.
Predictable. Yeah. That seems to be the thing with us. Is usually like the last episode is usually what's our number one.
Oh.
You want me to take it away again?
Yeah, everybody. Yeah.
Okay, so this episode has some time jumps. So it starts in 2017 and then it sees where every character ends up. So bear with me. 2017. Everyone is gathered at the Parks and Recreation office to say goodbye to one another. Throughout the episode, there are flash forwards to show the future of each character, which I do like, by the way. As everyone says goodbye, a resident comes in to complain about a broken swing and asks if he can be fixed. Now, fun little Parks and Recreation Easter egg. That gentleman that comes in to ask about the fence being fixed is the same gentleman from the pilot episode who was drunk in the slide. The same character, same actor.
And then you hear him correctly?
Yep.
Nice.
Been confirmed by the showrunners.
Nice.
Okay. Leslie decides that they can do one last thing altogether to help Pawnee and goes about doing that. They first obtain a form from Donna and goes to level 4 with Andy and April to get it approved. After that, Leslie and Tom go to another department, meeting John Ralphio along the way, only to realize that it closes on Friday. They ask Gary, who is now the mayor, for help. After getting all permissions, they head to the park to fix the swing together. Now, the flash forwards. For Donna, it's 2023. Donna is shown to be happily married to Joe, as well as successful at her real estate work. However, Joe's school decides to stop teaching mathematics. Because why? Rather than go on another adventure together, Donna decides to use her wealth to set up a nonprofit for Joe called Teach Yourself, enlisting the help of April in the process. April is visibly pregnant during the scene, hinting at the events of her and Andy's flash forward. The next flash forward we see is Craig, 2019 and forward. After singing One Night at Tom's Bistro, Tom tells Craig that a stranger has sent him a drink, and Craig grunts that he has to join him. The stranger turns out to be Typhoon, Ron's hairdresser. It is then shown that Craig and Typhoon get married, with Ron being Typhoon's best man. That's just so much of that just against Ron's character. I love it. Finally, the two are shown many years later on a futuristic plane ride for their anniversary. Craig asks Typhoon if Typhoon has any regrets. Who replies that he has none. When Typhoon asks Craig the same question, Craig replies that he has lots and begins ranting, to which Typhoon smiles. April and Andy, 2022/2023. Burt Macklin and Janet Snakehole are shown to be arguing before it's revealed it's Halloween. After sending some kids off, Andy tells April that he wants children, but April does not want to bring a child into the world, even though she doesn't mind the things her body would have to go through. The two then visit Ben and Leslie, but Andy is visibly disappointed when he discovers the triplets aren't home. Ben then talks to Andy separately, telling him that April will come around soon. Alone, April tells Leslie that she doesn't want kids because her life is perfect, but Leslie points out that people have kids not because their life is perfect, but because she and Andy are a team and they could have new team members. A year later, April is shown going into delivery in the hospital with her Halloween makeup on. The two give birth. It's perfect that it's the Exorcist makeup. The two give birth to a son and decide to name him Jack, and Leslie and Ben become godparents. John Ralphio, 2022. This was a good one. John Ralphio is shown to have died, and people are gathered around his gravestone listening to his favorite song as per his will. However, it is then shown that John Ralphio is still alive and faked his death to claim insurance money with Mona Lisa. He is then discovered due to his dancing and singing and runs away as his mourners chase him. An Easter egg in Craig's flash forward reveals that John Ralphio eventually becomes a successful champagne manufacturer and has produced the champagne Craig and Typhoon are drinking, which I didn't know.
There you
go. Tom, 2019. On the same night Craig meets Typhoon, Tom discusses with Ben, Ron, and Donna a new proposal to expand his bistro business all over the country. After deciding to do it, he is shown to have gone bankrupt after a few years, as America ran out of beef. After some encouragement from Lucy, who is still happily married to him, Tom becomes a motivational speaker and publishes a book, which is a huge success. We are later told that he has published another book as a sequel to the first book. Gary, 2017 to 2048. After a massive write-in, Gary is officially declared the mayor of Pawnee. He holds position for 10 terms before he passes away on his 100th birthday. Leslie and Ben are seen attending his funeral with Secret Service members surrounding them, suggesting that at least one of them has become the president of the United States. Gary's tombstone is misspelled as Gary Gergich. Ben points this out, and Leslie states it's close enough.
They really tortured him until they very.
They do. And I feel bad for it, but it's still funny. Now, this is probably my favorite flash forward. Shockingly, Ron, 2022. It's because it's perfect. After discovering that very good business building company's financial status is very good, Ron decides to quit his job. He finds that he is once more at a personal crossroad. On Ben's advice, he invests some of his gold in the Lagavulin distillery in Scotland, which he visited during the London trip, earning him a respectable share in the company and its profits. Deciding not to make the same mistake with his future again, he visits Leslie in D.C. for advice on the same bench April told Leslie she was quitting national parks. They meet again at the Pawnee National Park Leslie succeeded in building, where Leslie tells him that she has pulled some strings and is offering Ron the job of superintendent. Although Ron has his reservations, Leslie convinces him to take the job, which starts immediately. Ron then greets the other rangers under him before paddling away happily on a canoe to one of my favorite Willie Nelson songs, Buddy, which is significant because of what its appearance in my number one. Okay, the final flash forward. Leslie and Ben, 2025 to 2035. At a dinner with Joe Biden and his wife, both Leslie and Ben are approached to run for governor of Indiana separately. The two are unsure what to do and decide to discuss it when they return to Pawnee for a visit. Ben surprises Leslie in Pawnee. Not only has he gathered everyone at the office, he has also invited Ann and Chris. While everyone catches up, Mouse Rat songs can be heard playing. April reveals she is pregnant with a second child. Tom is working on a new book and is still speaking at conferences. Ann and Leslie are excited that their children might end up dating. And Chris gets a fear of cancer, because why not? Then it is revealed that Ann and Chris have two children and intend to return to Indiana, where Chris has accepted a job as head of admissions at Indiana University. However, Ben and Leslie both do not get a chance to discuss their situation with anyone. They both decide to flip a coin before everyone to decide, but as Leslie is about to announce the situation, Ben declares that Leslie is running for governor, deciding not to compete with Leslie. The scene then shows Leslie speaking at a commencement ceremony at Indiana University with her friends in attendance. She has been governor of Indiana for 2 terms and concludes her speech by telling everyone to go find your team and then get to work. Indiana University then announces that they will be naming their library the Leslie Knope Library to her displeasure, giving the rivalry between the Parks Department and the Library Pawnee. Ending. After everyone finishes fixing the swing, they pose for one last picture together. As they're taking the picture, Ben asks Leslie, "You ready, babe?" To which she replies, "Yes, I'm ready." Yeah. And then there's a producer's cut where they have 2 additional flash forward scenes featuring Shauna Mulway-Tweep and Jeremy Jam. For Shauna, just like in the original episode, she interviews the team's last job together. However, in this version, Leslie goes on to assure Shauna that she'll have a man in her life sooner or later. In her flash forward, Shauna is revealed to have been engaged, only to get left at the altar because her fiance's game went into overtime. She breaks down on a park bench and is found by Bobby Newport, who comforts her. 5 hours later, the two got married and are happily together. And Jeremy Jam, 2020, of course it's 2020, Jam gives Leslie a going-away present, an oil painting of him and her as Yoko Ono and John Lennon. In Jam's flash forward, he is revealed to have a new successful career as a chef at a Benihana restaurant in Florida. This is a great way to do a series finale. You're wrapping up your main storyline, but you're also giving everybody a taste of where everybody's going to the future, and it perfectly suits every character.
Well, they did that in How I Met Your Mother.
That's true, but I think this one pulled it off better.
I agree. There's no... So when you say that about... I like that finale. There's no controversy with this finale.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. No, it's a great, beautiful episode. It goes to show you just how tight everyone is.
Yeah, I mean... Yeah. And it's great. I mean...
It's one of the best series finales.
Yeah. Not my favorite, but I agree. And
Yeah,
something.
I'd put it top 10 easily.
Oh
High
yeah.
end, probably.
I'm okay with that. I say top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know about top 5, but top 10 I'll say. Yeah, that.
So you ready for my number one? Ben,
Yeah,
you want to say what it
I
is?
know it. I know it.
Say what it is then.
Leslie and Ron.
Yes, and spoilers. This is my favorite episode of the entire series.
Go ahead. Take it away, my man.
Okay. Let's. I went a little bit further than I should have. Leslie Knope and Ron Swanson are alone together in their old stomping ground, the headquarters of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Okay, I just want to preface this because this actually begins where the other episode left off on a cliffhanger. At the beginning of the season, it is revealed that Ron and Leslie had a massive falling out over something called Morningstar. At the end of the previous episode, everyone, all their friends who are sick and tired of their fighting, locked them in the Parks and Recreation department. And with the new locks and all that stuff, it's very easy to do. So this is where the episode picks up. Leslie Knope and Ron Swanson are alone together in their old stomping ground, the headquarters of the Department of Parks and Recreation. Neither can bear the thought of being alone with each other for 10 hours, but the pair are unable to escape via any means. Leslie proposes they simply wait a few minutes, then turn on the baby monitor left for them and inform Ben they have talked it out and made up. However, Leslie's pretend version of her apologizing for being too caring and Ron admitting to being stubborn does not sit well with Ron. Her sarcastic alternate is more to Ron's liking, which leads to Leslie throwing the monitor on the ground and destroying their only means of an early exit. As a result, Ron chooses to sit in silence while Leslie pesters him to get him to talk. He eventually can't take any more of Leslie's nonsense, and after she sings "We Didn't Start the Fire" with all the wrong lyrics, he agrees to speak with her for 3 minutes. To aid her in her discussion with Ron, Leslie draws up a chart with a number of key events that occurred between 2014 and 2015 that may have contributed to the demise of her friendship with Ron, culminating in the infamous Morningstar incident. It is finally revealed that Morningstar was a luxurious apartment complex that Ron's building company championed and built adjacent to the Pawnee Commons. Leslie was furious with Ron for the fact that he did not tell her in advance about the plans, combined with the project's go-ahead to remove many of the surrounding houses, including Anne's old house. Leslie figures she has deduced what happened, but Ron reveals there is more to the story of what happened and why he left the Parks Department. However, before Leslie can get anything out of him, Ron's watch beeps to signal that 3 minutes is up. He subsequently scampers into his old office to avoid discussing the matter any further. As a result of Ron's unwillingness to converse, Leslie begins quizzing him directly outside his office. Ron eventually has enough and commits to using excessive measures to escape. He finds his partially diffused Claymore mine that Leslie gave him 10 years ago, but is disappointed to discover that what he always thought was an actual line mine was merely a gimmick that Leslie bought as an anniversary gift for being parks director for 5 years. She had bought the empty shell online and filled it with balloons and confetti, which when it opens has "Congratulations, Ron" balloon in it. 2 hours go by, and Leslie has sifted through a number of the pair's old projects and documents in order to expand her original timeline chart. She stumbles across her Parks Department job application and is keen to read what Ron's very first impression of her were. His words were blatant and described plainly how he and Leslie would never be able to mesh due to their completely different ideals, and that would be a volatile relationship from the start. However, he was adamant that Leslie should be hired. Ron explains that it was her interview that had him convinced. To him, she was tough and honest and stood up for what she believed in, even if it might have damaged her chances of getting the job. The two have finally opened up to each other, but Ron can't bear to have this conversation get any sappier. He tries one final thing to get out, pulling the fire switch. It's another failure as the alarm merely turns on the sprinklers. April's constant tampering with the device over the years led to the fire department deactivating it. There is now nowhere for Ron to run, and he finally gives into spilling his side of the story. Over a bottle of alcohol, the two finally fully embrace. Ron explains that after Leslie left to join the National Park Service on the 3rd floor, she took both Terry and April with her, leaving Ron with no familiar faces in the Parks Department after both Tom and Donna also left to pursue their new careers. In a bold move for Ron, he made a decision in November 2014 to ask Leslie for a job at the National Parks Department over lunch. With Leslie being so busy, however, with her job, she stood him up. This blow made Ron realize that his time in government work was over, so he quit his longtime role as director of the Parks and Recreation Department and did not feel the need to explain his decision to anyone. He went on to establish his own building company and took on the Morningstar project, of which he admits to Leslie he is incredibly regretful about. To make the old stomping ground feel like home again, now they have reconciled. They redecorate the entire department redecorate the entire department office with all their old ornaments and furniture, and rock out till the gang come back to let them out in the morning. By the afternoon of the next day, the two old companions are once again on good terms. It's a peace offering. Ron presents Leslie with a framed picture. He explained the wood used for the frame is that of the front door from Anne's house, having salvaged the door himself in the event he and Leslie may someday reconcile. The pair then head off to indulge in their favorite pastime, eating too much breakfast food at JJ's Diner. This is what I would say is a perfect episode.
Yeah. You were giving me the chills. It's great.
Well, it's emotional. What's emotional about it is Ron Swanson, after 7 seasons, lets his guard down and talks about his feelings. And he is 100% justified in feeling for why he left. I get it. I'm with him 100%. I understand how it would hurt that a close friend for you, like in a big transition in your life when you really need them, isn't there for you.
Yeah. It's funny, I remember watching this and I thought, before it was revealed, I thought his wife left him. Now, you don't see her after they get married, right?
No, after you see her in the season 6 finale, she is mentioned, and you do see a picture of John and the kids, but you never see her again. Probably scheduling conflicts or something, or they just couldn't figure out a way to bring her in, because at this point she's really Ron's wife. No, and this is why I say when they use Buddy in the finale, which is one of the reasons why I like the Ron part of that earlier, because it's a perfect tie up to this. That's why I said Buddy is such an important song in the show, because it summarizes their relationship perfectly during the scene.
Yep.
Laugh with me, buddy. Sing with me, buddy. Please don't ever get away from me, buddy.
One flash forward in the finale is more of a prologue to this episode.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, that's why I said it ties in perfectly, because in that flash forward, he does what he tried to do earlier by going to Leslie about asking for a job. And she does give him a job. And really, it's the job that's most perfectly suited for Ron Swanson. He could be alone in nature, which, truthfully, if I was allowed my iPhone, I would gladly do. If I knew how to canoe a paddle. Or paddle a canoe. Holy shit, I'm getting hungry and tired. All right. Canoe a paddle. That's my very own fresh paint a coat. Oh boy.
Maybe we can wrap it up then.
Yeah, because we've almost gone an hour. Like I said, to me, this is... I love this. Like I said, the reason I love this episode so much is we finally crack the Ron Swanson shell. And to see that he does have a heart and he does have feelings.
Yeah.
And he's just like the rest of us. He just doesn't show it.
Nope.
And you can tell, and this just shows how understated Nick Offerman's acting is. You can see the pain on his face when he's telling Leslie about the events leading up to why he quit, about everything happened. You could tell he was the whole thing hurt him a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They were family, and he felt like they weren't family anymore.
Yeah. Left behind.
Yeah.
I understand it.
Me too.
Well, that brings Parks and Rec to an end. So next week, we're going to do the series recap with our top 5. Probably talk about our favorite Ron Swanson moments or something like that. We'll discuss that eventually. Yeah. And after that, we've got a very good, very exciting recapping for you. I'm going to tease it with this. And then next week we will reveal even more stuff.
Or good timey-wimey.
Yeah. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of space involved, whatnot. So, Ben, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at my Twitter at Ben_radio. Every Friday right here, every Tuesday I'm shooting the breeze with Matt Arizona here. Every Saturday I get Sweaty. And also on Saturday, Matt Showdown, my Showdown show where we come and play some queers. This summer we're covering factions. This week we're going to be covering corruption.
So it's coincidence that I'm wearing. Actually, it's pure coincidence that I'm wearing the shirt.
Oh, wow.
It was the first one I grabbed. That's hilarious. And as for myself, you can find me on my personal Instagram and Twitter at soda_the_saxman. You can find me all over this glorious channel, reviewing all out of the 7 shows, I'm involved with 6 of them. So pretty much I'm everywhere. So you can find me also producing our Star Wars show on Saturdays. And then of course you can find me on this show, Shooting the Breeze, everything Ben mentioned, as well as Showdown Night in Canada. Basically I'm all over the place. And on that note, thank you guys very much for joining us. We will see you next week when we recap the entire series of Parks and Recreation. And don't forget, everyone, stay sweaty. Ron Swanson.